I don't know. I didn't know people could see us now, but I'm gonna press. They
Can they?
apparently they can.
Hacks.
I know. But anyways, there's no. Usually, what I do, Matt, for transparency, is I actually go to the YouTube video itself and have OBS open, and I just do a record for the first like 2 minutes of us talking.
True.
And then I take that video and use the waveforms to just line everything up.
Look at you, Ryan. Just
I know.
ahead of the game. Yeah, I didn't.
Well, I'm so used to using waveforms to do the syncing for any of the videos, so that's usually what I do for this.
Waveforms sounds like a Dragon Ball Z fusion move.
I guess. But I'm gonna go over on Discord and press this button so everyone knows we're here instead of just Kevin Ainsworth, who's hanging out in the chat saying hello to us.
Kevin is the best. He's always here. He's always ready to go. All right, I'm gonna send a tweet out as well. Going live now. Come hang out! Exclamation mark. Hashtag fun. Yeah.
I also made sure in the Discord post to make sure to put in big, bold, capital letters that we're talking about Mega Man Battle Network today, just so people get prepared for it. They get prepared for Matt being very excited.
They better get ready. Please be excited because I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. You might be like actually secretly down on it, and I just don't know. I just don't know.
How heartbreaking would that be?
It would actually be a little bit heartbreaking, or it would just be completely unexpected of you, Matt. That's how I feel about it.
I love the amount of people who tweeted at me about once that went live, and they're like, "Oh my God, we thought of you, Matt." And I was like, "I'm glad that this has become my thing, is Mega Man and Persona, and I'm happy with 2 out of the 2." Game Nasty in the chat, what's going on, my dude? How you doing?
Yeah, that's your new identity now. That's just who you are, Matt.
That's who I am. I am Mega Man, and I am Persona. All right, my dude. Shall we get this party started?
Sure. I should actually probably press record on Audacity, shouldn't I? Yeah, I just did that.
Yeah.
Hello, future Matt.
Hello, future Matt. All right, I'm going to slap on the op. Let's do this thing.
Let's go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mega Man Battle Network Drive, episode 56, where we talk about all things Mega Man Battle Network all the time. You might also know us as the PlayStation Drive, but that's the old name. This is the new all things Mega Man Battle Network all the time. I'm joined by Mega Man Master Extraordinaire, the one with the knowledge, the one on the moose, Ryan Turford. What's up, dude? Welcome back.
I just want you to know, Matt, that I've officially joined Team Proto Man, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry.
Show's canceled. Show's canceled.
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
We all know that in the seminal Mega Man Battle Network 5, everybody goes Team Colonel, okay? Or as I used to call it, Team Colonel, because when I was younger, I didn't know that it was pronounced differently.
Yeah, but with the thing we're going to talk about later, you're not going to need to choose anymore, Matt. You'll have all of them. So it won't matter. It won't matter what you're doing. But Matt, I hope you're doing well. I'm glad to be back on the show. You know, the weather's nice today. You know, it's a nice 24 degrees outside. You know, partially cloudy, but there might be some rainstorms coming in a little later.
There might be.
Because if I didn't talk about the weather at least a little bit, people would be like, "What's wrong with Ryan today? He's on the PlayStation Drive and he's not talking about weather. Like, who are you? Who even are you at this point?
Is this a fake Ryan? Is this Court in a suit? Who knows?
I actually secretly Captain Canada in disguise. Who knows?
Who knows?
You have to find out. You're listening to the rest of the show in order to find out. But also, happy Canada Day to you as well. Just saying Court's nickname reminded me that it's Canada Day today. It's July 1st.
It is July 1st. It is Canada Day. So happy Canada Day to all of our wonderful Canadian listeners. Strap in because we're going to have one fun show as Ryan and I reunite for the PlayStation Drive episode 50. I just blanked out. 57. There we go.
57 earlier, so I went with what you said, and I assumed you were correct.
I am correct. I just went back and checked myself. I just completely ran into that face first. Woohoo! It's a day. Dude,
this show's totally gone off the rails since I left this show.
Listen, very quickly, before we get into the rigmarole of everything, I'm a bit tired today. I'm in a bit of a weird state. I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning, convinced it was 7:30 in the morning, fed my dog, and then went back to bed. And I was like, I can sleep for another 20 minutes. Looked at the clock. It was 2:30 in the morning. I think I was so like in such deep sleep. I had no idea what was going on anymore. I just woke up and I was like, time to feed the dog.
That's amazing.
So that's
if it makes you feel better, Matt. I was still awake at 2:30 in the morning because I was watching horror movies.
Were you?
5 a.m. last night, because that's just what I do.
Were you by chance thinking about me at 2:30 in the morning? Is that why I woke up? I felt your mental summons.
Clearly. I wasn't going to admit it, but now that you've dragged it out to the light, I suppose I can't run away from the truth anymore.
That's right. Oh, my day is made, everyone. This has been a fantastic show. See you later. I need nothing else from this today.
Retire undefeated from here.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you're joining us on youtube.com at youtube.com/carpoolgaming. We are live right now. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share it in the chat. Send us your thoughts, comments, and concerns. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you also ring that bell so you know when we go live. We have so much fantastic content going on over here at Carpool Gaming all the time. So make sure you leave that bell on so you know when it goes live. If you can support us over on patreon.com/carpoolgaming, please do so. Toss a little tip in the old tip jar, and out comes content. There's so much going on there. It helps us grow, helps us make even better and cooler and more ridiculous content for you, which we love doing. So if you can, please hop over there and support. And if you're listening to us on your podcast service of choice, please subscribe, follow, hit us with that 5 stars. Once again, it helps us reach more audiences so they can hear me prattle on about feeding my dog at 2:30 in the morning. But without further ado, my friend, let's slam. Well, no, we're not going to slam on the brakes. Let's toss in our cassette tape, Ryan, for the youth. That is something that plays music. We used to use those all the time.
Are you saying that my 8-track reference, Matt, would totally fly over people's heads? They don't know what 8-tracks are? Is that what you're trying to tell me? The youth don't know?
I don't know, dude. But we're going to bring it back. We're going to make cassettes cool again. So let's slap that in and talk about our playlist, my friend. I'm going to start with you. What have you been playing lately?
Now, first off, I should note, whenever you buy games from Limited Run now, it's becoming more and more common that they include a cassette tape with it, with the soundtrack of it on whatever game comes in it. So I think cassettes are actually making a little bit of a comeback. So you're not totally off base here, but I'm actually going to keep my what we're playing section short. Number one, because I want us to devote more time to some of our news stories today. Because we haven't been able to talk about a lot of these on a lot of the shows because. Also in the Xbox Drive on Wednesday with Sean Capri, we spent 50 minutes talking about what we played this week. So if you want me to go into detail about what I've been playing, you certainly go over there. I have impressions of Fall Guys on PS5, Capcom Fighting Collection. I finished all the games in the collection and I talk about it over there. I finished Sonic Origins and got the full 1000 gamer score for that. I talked about that over there. And then AI the Somnium Files, Nirvana Initiative. I'm not far enough in it to want to talk about it anyways. So that's pretty much all I got to say about what's happening there. Although I will say, new development yesterday with Fall Guys. The Halo event came to Fall Guys yesterday. Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yep.
I called you Corp for some reason. But anyways,
the same.
I played the Halo event yesterday, and I totally got all those costumes, and I totally had a lot of fun playing that as well.
So let me ask you this, Ryan, before we move on, because I have a couple of questions about your playlist. I don't want to just leave you high and dry here and just divert people elsewhere. I want to hear from you. I just like listening to your voice. Are you going to be hopping into some extensive Fall Guys this weekend? Because they have that whole cross promotional event going on this weekend where you can get Fortnite skins and Rocket League stuff. There's a massive thing going on. Are you going to hop back in and then try and get your Fortnite skins? I know you're a big Fortnite guy.
Yeah, you know me, being the massive Fortnite guy that I am. But honestly, I'll probably play some, but I'm not going to go overboard with it or anything like that because I'm playing 2 more games for Extra Miles on top of the 2 Extra Miles that are coming out tomorrow. So it's just I just don't really have too much time to devote to that anyways. Because again, I'm also playing Fire Emblem on Switch as well, the
nice.
new one, 3 Hopes. So I've got a lot on my plate at the moment because, of course, this is all the games for Ryan Turfordor specifically coming out around this time, and I'm also playing the Overwatch 2 beta on top of all that. It's just it's just one of those things where I've got too much stuff going on probably to devote some time to each game.
Were you big on Overwatch?
Oh yeah, I have 500 plus hours in Overwatch 1.
Really?
I used to play it a ton. It was my personal game of the year of 2016. I loved that game to death. Especially because I loved playing, support roles, and I always felt really, comfortable, filling in for that section of the party. Whether it's playing as one of the healers or playing as a more support DPS class, something like a Mei or someone else, or even just tanking was really fun too.
Nice.
But I used to play a ton of Overwatch. That was definitely a thing. So I'm actually really excited to play Overwatch 2, and I've played a little bit of the beta, but I think that's something I want to save for next week too. Just because I've only really played 1 or 2 matches and I haven't really seen the extent of everything that's new in it. But I'm excited to play more because I used to be a huge fan of Overwatch, and I don't know. I'm dangerously close to falling back into it, Matt, and it's not good.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to hear more about your Overwatch 2 endeavors very, very soon. As for myself, I also hopped into AI, the Somnium Files Nirvana initiative. You know what, Ryan? I'm really glad you're on the show this week because I have a bunch of like Ryan and Matt type games that I've been playing, which fits perfectly for you and having this conversation. I've only played like, I don't know, like 40 minutes, so I'm like very early in. But it's just so cool being back in that world. It's awesome being back with some of those characters. I love how meta it gets right from the beginning, where it puts you in this like slight spoilers for the first 5 minutes of the game, but it puts you in this like game show-esque thing, and it literally asks you if you're familiar and tests you on the story of the first game. Not gonna lie, I had to look up like a summary to remind myself exactly what happened because it's been years since I played the first one. But I'm hearing great things about it. I'm excited to continue on with it. I'm sure you and I will talk about this more in the future soon. Finally hopped back into Operation Tango, probably like one of my favorite PlayStation Plus games from last year. My friend and I, who have been playing it together, finally hopped in and cleaned up the last couple missions. I have to say, probably one of my favorite co-op experiences, period. I think it just nails what it sets out to do. It's just such a wonderful surprise. I do think the last mission gets into a bit of a what am I doing situation. Like, as everyone knows, I'm not the biggest puzzle person. And I was playing the hacker predominantly on that side of that game. And like usually I could figure it out throughout the rest of the missions throughout the game. It might take us a couple minutes, but we could usually get there. The final mission was the first time we had to use hints because we were just so out to lunch about what we were supposed to do. So once we got it rolling, we kind of connected the dots and kept going from there. But yeah, fantastic game. If you're able to play that with somebody, because it is online co-op only, please do so. It's really fun. Hop back into Persona 3 Fez, Ryan. I felt the itch. I felt it, especially after all the Persona news that's been going on the last few weeks.
You didn't want to wait till Portable came out? You wanted to jump into FES right away?
I already played Portable. I played and beat Portable. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like for me, my first Portable run was with Makoto, the male character. I'm saving my FemMC route for when P3P is re-released because everybody knows that I'm going to end up buying it all over again like a giant big dumb dum-dum.
Of course.
Exactly. So with Fez, I never really got to experience the added content, especially with the differences between Fez and P3P. And on the Steam Deck is a perfect little emulation system. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop into it here. Again, only about like an hour to an hour and a half in so far. I just started it yesterday, but like immediately being sucked back into that world, I can feel it clawing at me all over again. And so far, it feels like enough of a different experience compared to P3P, just because of the way that the maps work, just because of like even the animated cutscenes and the way that things are handled a little bit differently. I'm excited to continue on with that. And Ryan, you'll be happy to hear, I finally jumped back into Final Fantasy 14.
Woo! Is it because of the free login campaigns happening right now?
It is equal parts that, and with my partner being away for a month, I was like, what an opportune time for me to hop back into this world and spend some time with it. Shout out to my friend Darren, old co-host over at Burnout Brighter, where he helped me work through my my boss and my dungeon anxiety, because I am a healer, I am an astrologian. And I was very nervous about hopping back in, especially with the changes and me being away for a little bit. But we made it. We pushed through. We only died once on one boss in one of the dungeons, and I got everybody through the second round. Dude, that game is just so much fun. It's such a wonderful place to return to. And actually, Darren's coming over later today because he wants to clean my HUD. Because I sent him a picture of it, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So he's like, rather than me explaining how to fix it, he's like, I'm going to physically come over and actually clean it for you, so that way you can actually see what's going on properly and not be lost in it entirely.
I was going to say, being able to see what's going on in that game is certainly a major help. But dude, I'm so happy you're going back to it. I have two questions for you. Number one, did you actually try and play with the new duty support that they added? I know that they have only added that for the lower level dungeons, like the Realm Reborn dungeons, but it's also a good way to practice getting over dungeon anxiety as well. Like if you didn't have Darren to play with, but you wanted to practice going through dungeons and stuff like that again, like I think that's a good way to do that anyways.
Yeah, I haven't as of yet, because like the one night that I put like a 3 to 4 hours in, he was with me the entire time. But I'm in Heavensward now. I'm just going to meet with like slight spoilers, but I just finished like the first major dungeon in Heavensward as far as I understand. So yeah, I do plan to hop back into it just to kind of, once my HUD is now cleaned, just to like relearn the ropes and to make sure that I'm, where I want to be as I kind of continue on with the story. And what was your second question?
Oh, well, I was going to ask if you were at Heaven's Ward, but that's where you were, because I remember that's what you told me before. But also, are you playing just on PC or Steam Deck, or where are you playing?
PS5. I'm playing on the PS5.
Oh, excellent. You're one of us. So,
I am one of you.
Yeah, I mean, because playing controller is probably the best way to play that game. And with Astrologian 2, I have like an exact button layout that just follows me around, because one of the nice things now that they let you do is upload your interface data to the cloud, and then for each of your characters, and then regardless of where you play it from there, you can then download it, and you always have that with you, so you never have to once Darren cleans up your interface and stuff, as long as you upload your character data, which is a manual thing that you need to do in like the character select screen.
Okay.
You will never have to clean that up again, because it will always carry with you.
You know what? I've been so tempted to pick it up on the Steam Deck, and I'm just kind of like, I just don't know, like with the way that my HUD is, and I'm just like, I obviously have to buy it again, which isn't like the major issue, but just playing it on that smaller screen, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. But maybe now, Ryan, that you've told me that, once my HUD is clean and I get used to it, I'm very tempted to pick it up on the Steam Deck to be able to take it with me on the go and play it wherever I want. Which will then truly end my time playing any other game, and I'm just gonna get sucked into this for the rest of my life.
Wow. I mean, we'd have to preface, you can't really play it anywhere, Matt. You kind of need an internet connection, a good one, to play that game.
Just tether my phone, buddy, and we're off to the races.
Good. People on Dungeons are going to hate you for that.
I'm going to be the healer. Well, I mean, I could do MSQ. I could save the dungeons and the bosses for my time at home, and just adventure onwards by myself.
Where you're at right now, it's going to be a long time before you're in another dungeon anyways.
There you go. Yeah. Perfection. So get
not until like level 53 probably. So
yeah, there you go. Well, my friend, let's slam on the brakes and check out some breaking news, because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about this week, my friend. Let's start with some PlayStation Plus games for July. We got our list of the essential games that we'll be getting for the essential tier, which are Crash 4, It's About Time, Man of Medan, and Arcadegeddon. Those will be available on the first Tuesday, as they always are every month. Ryan, we're getting... I think this is a pretty okay list. Where are you at on this? How do you feel about July's essential month?
Yeah, I mean, these games are definitely older games, except for Arcadegeddon, which that's definitely a newer title. Mm-hmm. But of the three of them, or I should say, like all three, I think are gonna be pretty solid pickups. Like they're not the most mind-blowing games out there, but I do think that this is actually like a pretty solid list of three games. Now I will say it's a little bit disappointing, because I think Man of Medan, if I'm not mistaken, is already in the extras tier of PlayStation Plus.
I think you're right, but I'm going to fact check you very quick.
Wrong. Whereas I don't think Crash or Arcadegeddon is, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they're both there. Who knows? But so I will say that it is a little bit of a bummer for those that have access to the extra tier.
You're right.
Just the normal tier. But I do think that anyone, if you just have Essential, I think I would claim all three of these games, because I think they're really good. Like Man of Medan, yes, it's not a perfect horror game, but if you're playing it for free, I actually think it's a pretty good horror experience. I replayed it, fairly recently, a couple months ago, and definitely feel like I've turned around at least a little bit on that game versus how I felt when I first played it. And then Crash 4, I think, is a really awesome 3D platformer that should be played if you like 3D platformers. If you never gave Crash 4 a chance, if you didn't like Crash in the past, like I think actually that game's really good. And again, I just never played, so I don't know if it's good or not.
Yeah, I'm excited about Crash 4. It's a game I've always wanted to play. I loved the original games, and I've just never picked up Crash 4, so I'm excited to hop into that one to check it out. Man of Medan, surprisingly, I've also played. Darren and I actually co-opted that game together back when it came out, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. I thought it was like, well, not a perfect experience by any stretch of the imagination. I thought it was fun for the time that we spent with it. And similarly, I know next to nothing about Arcadegeddon, so I'm curious, to check it out. From what I know, it is like a PvP, PvE online experience, so we'll see. We're definitely going to check it out. But Ryan, this really begs the question, and this is what kind of Court and I touched on this last week, but we have the essential list, right? Shouldn't we be getting an update to the extra and the premium tiers around this time as well? I believe what they told us is it was going to be twice a month. We got no further updates in June because obviously the service was just rolling out. When are we going to hear about extra and premium? What are you thinking on this?
The weirdest thing, I don't know if you and Court talked about this, and if I did, feel free to correct me, but we also had Super Stardust Portable just come out of nowhere about a week ago to the premium tier with literally no announcement. Like, the only reason I knew it was there was because Wario64 tweeted about it.
Okay.
Because it had just popped up and someone had tweeted him about it. So that's why I'm like, this whole rollout's a little bit weird, but I'm hoping next week that we hear something about, what is coming out, because we also don't know like how they're going to roll out updates for this, if it's just going to be every Tuesday of first Tuesday of the month like they're doing with the essential tier stuff, or if they're doing it at another time, and if they're going to create like a monthly blog post for it. I mean, if they follow the PlayStation Now model, it's usually the first Monday of the month, or the first week of the month is when we would usually get like the here's what everything that's coming to PlayStation Now this month kind of article. So I'm anticipating we're getting an article like that for premium and extra tiers, but yeah, we'll see. It's a little bit weird. But it doesn't give me a lot of hope when, again, a game like Super Stardust Portable just shows up on the premium tier out of nowhere and they don't even bother saying anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know. This for me, like, I really expected that they would follow the same schedule as Essential, that we would get a drop on the first Tuesday of the month and then a second drop partway through, because they did mention that there was going to be a refresh halfway through the month. So I was expecting, alongside Essential, here's your new games for the month of July, August, whatever, and then like partway through the month refresh. But it's maybe it still has to do with the rollout being relatively recent. We do know that Stray is launching straight to the service, and that's supposedly coming out, if I remember correctly, on the 19th. So you would assume that and that is a Tuesday, and that is partway through the month. I don't know. I find that I really feel like they should have been ahead on the messaging on this, given the platform is brand new. Whether maybe they're skipping the early July refresh and going for that mid-month, and then we'll have a more regular schedule going forward, or not. I don't know. I want to know more about this. I want to know what's going on, because, I feel like these early stages are so important to get people to buy in, or people who just bought into the service, to keep people happy, and then they don't start the whole conversations of, oh, this isn't worth it, when the service just launched. So I don't know. I hope we hear more about it soon.
Yeah, same. And I would be very surprised if this coming week came by and we didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah, I hope you're right. We'll give you an update on next week's show if we hear anything. The next story, possibly the biggest story of the year, coming from Eurogamer, written by Martin Robinson. The Mega Man Battle Network series is coming to Switch. Mega Man Battle Network, Capcom's turn-based take on the iconic action series, is coming to Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PC next year. The collection will be bundling 10 games in total, with the physical release offering the full set, while the digital release will be split across 2 volumes. There'll be extra features such as music mode, featuring some 150 songs, and an art gallery containing over 1,000 illustrations. There is also a toggle, what I'm hoping to be a toggle of like a smoother graphical not overhaul, but like almost like a filter on it that kind of creams everything out. Like, it looks like it's smothered in Vaseline. Not the biggest fan of it. I'm obviously going to keep it on with the classic pixelated style. But dude, I'm so excited. Finally, after months and years and decades of asking, we finally got it. It is coming. I'm a little surprised that it's coming all the way next year. Like, I would kind of think that would be a more imminent release, but I'm so happy it's finally happening. I want a physical collector's edition, please. Like, I will buy that on PS4. I'll buy that probably on Switch, actually, just because I like having those games on the go. But I just give me everything, Ryan. I'm so excited. It's finally happening. How do you feel about the Mega Man Battle Network collection?
The hilarious thing about this whole thing is, number one, you could barely contain your excitement while you were, explaining this story, Matt, but also like going back to one of the very first episodes of the PlayStation Drive that we ever did together. You were talking about how much we were talking, because I think we had a question about like, what collections would you love to see the most? And you had specifically mentioned how much you wanted Mega Man Battle Network to come out.
It's happening.
So I know, I know you had mentioned before, like in our pre-show, that everyone was tweeting you about it because they knew how excited you would be. Just like when I was watching, because Kato, Sean, and I did a live reaction during the Nintendo Direct, and when we saw this announcement, I like immediately thought of you and knew that just how excited you probably would be with this announcement. Like, I imagine you jumping out of your seat with excitement. So like, this view, I imagine, is probably the same as when like Metroid Dread was announced for me, where I was so excited that Nintendo was doing a new 2D Metroid game. And this is exciting news. Like, yeah, 2023, a little bit far away and it's a little ambiguous. It kind of reminds me of when we got the announcement of the Sonic Origins collection, which is just fresh on my mind because I just recently played it, this week. But that made more sense for it to be so far away from when they announced it because they totally, essentially remade those 4 games that are in that collection. Whereas that's not really what they're doing with this. It sounds like they're more going to be ports, and then to your point, there will be like a smoothing filter on it in case you don't like the jaggy edges of the Game Boy Advance, look to the games, which is something we've seen in other collections before, like the Castlevania Anniversary Collection with the Game Boy Advance games in it. Like that's a very recent case of that as well. But, I'm excited for this. The thing is, and I think we talked about it before, but I mean, I missed out on these games. I never really played them when they came out, and I love strategy RPGs, and I love Mega Man. But the idea of them going to this virtual world, admittedly at the time, was definitely a turnoff for me. And especially after seeing the Battle Network cartoon show, at the time, I was at a stage in my life where I was like rejecting a lot of stuff like this, and that was just one of those things where I watch it, I'm like, I can't do this. As much as I love Mega Man, it's not really appealing to me. So I'm really excited to be able to check out these games for the first time, and I'm glad that they're on, finally coming to platforms that people are going to be able to play them on. I am a little bit bummed that these aren't coming to Xbox now, because that is where I have all of my other Mega Man collections. So, and they've done all of them there. This is the first one that's skipping Xbox. So it's just weird to me that it's not coming there. But this is a PlayStation show. We don't need to delve into that here. But either way, I'm excited to play these. I'll definitely be playing them on PlayStation 4. And if there's a collector's edition, who knows? But I will say, out of the Capcom Mega Man collections, the only one they did like a collector's edition for was the first one with the original Mega Man games, and it was only to include a solid gold Mega Man amiibo in it. That was it. So I don't know if you should get your hopes up too much, but we saw one with the Cowabunga collection, and I wasn't expecting that. So anything's on the table, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly anticipating an actual collector's edition either. It would just be the cherry on the already very impressive cake that they're giving us here. I'm super stoked on this. I will say, for people who are new to the franchise, the first game is good, but it definitely aged the worst out of the bunch. You do have like your kind of Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2 style leap from 1 to 2, even to 3. The growth between those 3 games is pretty huge. And I would argue to play them in order because the story does connect through on certain elements. So just be aware that, the first one, it does take a bit of loving for it to kind of click. But then once you're in, and you're off to the races on the rest of them. So yeah, we'll have more details and more news about that, I'm sure, because I'm not going to shut up about this ever. Moving on to our next story, coming from IGN, written by George Yang. Star Ocean: The Divine Force launches in October. Square Enix and Tri-Ace have announced that Star Ocean: The Divine Force will launch on October 27th globally for PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. We also got 2 new trailers for the game. Ryan, I've never played a Star Ocean. It's always been a series that's been kind of in my periphery. It's never one that I've like really connected with. And from what I understand, they are a little bit in varying terms of quality. So tell me what you think about this new one. Tell me what you think about the new trailer. Where's your hype at on this one?
So I think when we got the original trailer earlier this year, we were still doing the show together. And I remember us talking about it. I was very down on that original trailer. It did not look good. The game looked like it was in really rough shape. They were showing off a lot of the character models, and they looked really weird. But when this new trailer dropped, because they actually dropped multiple trailers, but the trailer I'm going to refer to is like the main story trailer. When I saw that trailer, I think I'm turned around on this game. I think this game actually looks pretty good. Like the combat looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. The Star Ocean games have always been action RPGs, and this is no exception. It looks like it's borrowing a little bit from maybe the Kingdom Hearts style combat or Final Fantasy VII remake style combat, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's totally okay that it's doing that. But I think this game looks pretty cool, and I'm really interested in it, especially because we don't get too many Japanese RPGs that are sci-fi, like super far in the future, like this one. We get some stuff like that, but it's more common for either more like cyberpunk settings like Final Fantasy VII or something like a fantasy setting like Final Fantasy 16. So I think it's very refreshing to see kind of like a space opera style JRPG, and I'm actually excited to play this one because I do like the Star Ocean games. Definitely the first two on PlayStation 1 are very excellent games. And then Star Ocean 3 on PlayStation 2 was good, but, not amazing. And then Star Ocean 4 on PlayStation 4 was real bad. Star Ocean 5, Integrity and Faithlessness. I skipped over the one that came to Xbox 360 only, which was Star Ocean 4, but and that game was okay too. But I'm excited for this one after this trailer, and as well watching the combat trailer. Like, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm curious to know what you think about this, Matt, being someone who's new to the series.
I'm honestly on a wait and see on this one. I think I only watched the story trailer, so I'm going to swing back around and catch that combat trailer. I am more sold on it than I was, I think, when we first saw it, because you and I both had kind of, perplexed reactions to it the first time around. I do think this looks better. I still do think graphically it looks a little weird, and I mean, I'm not a graphic snob, but there's just something about the art style that is turning me off a little bit more so than the graphics themselves. And the combat, I think, it does look fun. So I am more interested than not. I just do think that this launching in October, at the end of October, does put it at a bit of a disadvantage given how much is going on around this game. And for people, I'm sure people, Star Ocean fans will be picking it up regardless. But this may end up turning into a wait and see / wait and sale for me. If the reviews are stellar, me, I'm a victim of hype. I will buy this day one. But I am at least more curious about this than I was before. And you answered the other question I was going to ask, which was, where should I check out Star Ocean? Maybe I'll jump into the first one, on the Steam Deck and give her a whirl before we get closer to this one to see how sold I really am.
Yeah, that remake that they did, First Destination. Play that instead of the PlayStation 1 version.
Okay.
That's actually like a really good remake. In fact, if you don't already have it on Steam, I think it's already on PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
Essential tier.
All right.
Or not essential, extra.
So okay.
I would check that version out instead of the original PS1 version. I think the PS1 version is good, but it's like, I think they did such a good job with that remake that I don't think you need to go back and play the original one. Unless you really, really, really want to play a PlayStation 1 game, Matt. But I don't think you necessarily need to do that. But it's going to be a busy, holiday for Square Enix, because that same month we've also got Forspoken from Square Enix coming. And then, I don't know if you saw this because it's not in our news stories, but yesterday there was a tweet about that they're doing a Japanese live stream for the Diofold Chronicles next week, which is that real-time strategy / turn-based RPG that's coming out, where it plays like a real-time strategy game, but as you get close to the enemies, it then turns into a turn-based RPG, like kind of similar to something like Tactics Ogre. And that's still supposed to be coming out later this year. And then we also know that Square Enix also has Valkyrie Elysium that's supposed to come out this year on PlayStation 5. So
Harvestella on the Switch. Like, they have a busy fall.
Yeah, exactly. And then combined with the fact that this comes out, the same day as Call of Duty, and it's just, they're kind of asking for it with this one.
Yep.
But yeah, this is one where I might not check it out, day one. But this is one I'm excited to check out, down the road, even if it is just waiting for a sale at this point.
For sure. Nice. All right. Let's hop over to our next story, staying in this JRPG realm, coming from Ryan Dinsdale. Persona 5 Royal. The PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC versions will include all 45 DLC packs. Persona 5 Royal on PS5, Xbox, and PC will come with all 45 DLC packs at launch that have been released for the PS4 version. Players will have instant access to a ton of different costume packs and other smaller pieces of DLC when the game is released again on October 21st. We don't need to go too deep in this one. I just wanted to shout this out because I know when I brought this up, it was only confirmed for the PC version to be launching with all the with all the DLC packs. But I'm glad to see that is also happening on Xbox and on PS5. Ryan, are you going to be picking this game up again when it comes out in October?
No, because I already own it on PlayStation 4, and then and it's on Game Pass. So at this point, I will be playing it because I will play it I'm just going to be playing on Series X at this point because it's free, and I already have a subscription over there, so there's no reason to buy it again. Because I already have the Platinum Trophy on PlayStation anyways. Now,
likewise,
because they haven't outlined whether or not you get a free upgrade. I imagine because the DLC is included, you don't get the free upgrade.
Yep.
With this to PlayStation 5. But if they had that, then I would just download it and transfer my trophy data over and then make sure I get the double platinum for this. But no, if I'm going to go back to this, it will be on another platform just to have, a little bit of a different experience with it, whether it's there or on Switch, because we just got that announcement this week too. And the Switch version also includes all the DLC too, in case you're listening to this show and you want to play it on Switch, or you're thinking about that at least a little bit.
There you go. So I definitely know I'm going to end up buying this again like a big old dum-dum, like I mentioned previously. But I'm excited to check out the DLC that I missed because, yeah, there is a lot of DLC and there's a lot going on there. But that's coming in October. Something that's not coming this year anymore, coming from Eurogamer, written by Ed Nightingale, retro-inspired RPG Sea of Stars has been delayed to 2023. Retro-inspired RPG has been delayed to 2023. It's from Sabotage, the team behind ninja platformer The Messenger, and features some truly stunning pixel art. It was aiming for a 2022 release, but now that's been pushed back to 2023. We don't have release platforms for this yet, but with The Messenger, I'm pretty sure being on PlayStation.
It was literally on everything.
There you go. So
it was a Switch exclusive first, and then it came to everything else. It came to PlayStation after that, and then Xbox, and then PC.
Yeah, so I would imagine that Sea of Stars is going to follow a similar route. So I'm assuming this is going to be coming to PlayStation. This is, understandable news. I want them to take their time that game because that game truly does look stunning. I know my fantasy critic is now, I very quickly hopped on and made a drop request, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I was really looking forward to this game. I'm still looking forward to it, but the delay's the delay. Let them take their time to get it right. But Ryan, where are we at? Where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I'm hyped for this game. I knew something was up though, and Garrett and I've talked about this on the RPG Cave, our RPG show. After the Devolver Showcase, because this is a game being published by Devolver, the fact that we didn't see this at the Devolver Showcase just instantly told me that something was up with this game, that it probably wasn't going to make this year. And then especially like after not seeing the Nintendo Direct partner showcase on Tuesday, that was also just sent out instant red flags there for me personally. So yeah, I mean, this is not something that seemed like it was, not going to happen. I prepared myself for disappointment, as you would say, Matt. So I'm still stoked for this game, and I'm glad they're at least taking the time with it. And when you look at the development of The Messenger, this isn't too far off from what happened with that game too, because that game also was no stranger to delays either. And it actually ended up coming out 2 years after it was supposed to originally, but it ended up being an amazing game because of it. Mm-hmm. So if that's what happened here with Sea of Stars, I'm all for it because this game looks awesome, and I can't wait to play it next year, hopefully.
Well, now that you're prepped and primed for disappointment, Ryan, let's roll on with that same vibe here today, because we've got two stories that we're going to round off with, both PlayStation first party related, both sad. We're going to start with Sucker Punch, who put out a blog post today titled Upcoming Infamous 2 UGC Maintenance and Legacy Franchises. They go on to say how as they approach 25 years since they first opened, they're looking back at their legacy and the characters and the stories that they've told. And they do confirm, quote unquote, with our focus on our current project, we have no plans to revisit Infamous or Sly Cooper right now, and no other studio is currently working on projects related to those franchises either. These characters are very special and near and dear to our hearts, so while we'd never say never to reopening those doors down the road, for now, there are no Infamous or Sly Cooper games in development. So, Ryan, I wanted to bring this up because, A, it's sad, and I'm sure Court is having a worse day because of it, because we all know how much he loves Infamous. But there were a lot of rumors going around of a Sly Cooper game that was imminent. There was a lot of hope for Infamous to come back, but that has been all put to bed by Sucker Punch themselves. Ryan, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? How you doing? Are you okay?
So, it's not a strange thing to me to hear that Sucker Punch isn't working on those franchises, because that's not what I think any of us expected. I think we all kind of expected them to either do a Ghost of Tsushima 2 or to do something completely different, because that's just what we know modern Sucker Punch to be doing. Mm-hmm. But it is more surprising for them to just come out and specifically say that these IPs aren't being worked on with someone else, because that was kind of where the hope was. The hope was that, okay, another developer in Sony studio lineup is working on Infamous or Sly Cooper. That's where a lot of the rumors we heard were coming from, especially like over the last 2 years. We've been hearing a lot about another studio working on Infamous. Mm-hmm. So it is more surprising to me that that's not coming as opposed to Sly Cooper. But the fact that they up and confirm both, it's really sad for me because I do really love those franchises. Infamous more so than Sly, though, because I do love the Infamous games, especially 1 and 2. I love Cole McGrath's story, and just that those games are amazing. And I always wish they would have gone back to it after Second Son, because I do think that's a good entry. But I always wanted more Infamous after that happened, even if they took 5 or 10 years to happen, because that's a franchise where like I would love to see what they could do with the PlayStation 5 and how they could utilize that when developing a game like that, or even after playing a game like Spider-Man and seeing like an Infamous game inspired by some of the positive things we learned from playing Spider-Man, I think would be awesome to see. But it doesn't sound like that's going to be happening, which is really sad to see. But I'm glad they're at least being honest about this stuff. They're just telling us straight out, like, look, I know you guys are hoping for some of this stuff, but this is just not coming, and we just want you to know about it at least. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm happy that they're at least being transparent about it. I'm happy they're just I'm happy that they also didn't leave it kind of ambiguous that like we're not working on anything. I'm glad they've just flat out put it to bed so people can keep their expectations in check moving forward, at least for the foreseeable future. Because while they did say never, I'm sure they're working on Ghost 2, and I'm sure they're if there was something else going on, we would know, or we'd have something going on. But I am disappointed on this, especially in what is like the superhero heyday. There's so much superhero going on all the time between the MCU and everything else. It does kind of surprise me that Sony wasn't more gung-ho about bringing Infamous back, especially given it's, a superhero power fantasy through and through. Similarly, I do have a lot of love for both Sly Cooper and more Infamous myself as well. So I was hoping to see a return on both of these fronts, but it's disappointing to hear that they're not working on it. It's disappointing to hear that it's not imminent, or at least anytime soon, because like I really would love a Blue Point style remake of Infamous, because I do think that game would does translate pretty well today. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll keep our eyes on the future, and at least we know. At least we can kind of go to bed knowing that there is no hope right now. So on the last story one day, Ryan. The last story that we're going to touch on before we let some of our friends in, the big story of the week, the one that everybody's been talking about, confused about, feelings are all over the place. Before we get into this, very quickly, don't harass developers. They don't deserve any of this for the amount of crap that's been thrown their way over things that they have absolutely no control over. I know it's not anybody in this community, because this community is a fantastic place, but come on, man. Like, how are people still doing this? Coming from Xputer, God of War Ragnarok release date announcement delayed. This is written by Tom Henderson. Rumblings of a God of War Ragnarok announcement started earlier in June, with Bloomberg's Jason Schreier addressing speculation that the title would be delayed in 2023. Schreier's report said that the game is still on track for a 2022 release, with the release date's announcement coming later in the month. Then we had stuff from the Snitch that we talked about last week, with a lot pointing to June 30th as being the day that we would hear about God of War's collector's editions and everything else. Sony and PlayStation did not do anything. There was nothing going on. There's speculation that it could be part of the absolute catastrophe that's going on in the States. Again, make sure you're well informed. Women's rights are incredibly important, along are the right to choose. So it seems like, for whatever reason, things have been delayed, but Tom Henderson, who is quite a reputable leaker, went on to talk that it could really be November 11th as the release date. Need for Speed is apparently launching on November 4th, and Avatar is supposed to be November 18th. So November 11th seems like a pretty safe spot for this to land. There's talks about the collector's editions, which would come with Thor's Mjolnir's hammer, and along with some other stuff. So we don't have official confirmation. We don't know when it's coming. Things seem to be a little bit all over the place. There was so much hype. There was so much speculation. Ryan, where are you at on God of War Ragnarok? How are you feeling about this entire, the drama surrounding it that seems to just be perpetuating the more that we don't hear anything? Where are you at on all this?
So, first off, I'm very glad that you kind of, the thing that you addressed right at the beginning, like seeing Cory Barlog having to go out there and, apologize to people and stuff like, come on, man. Like, no one needs to be doing that. You don't harass developers on Twitter for no reason, or because you got psyched up for, a potential release date announcement that just hadn't happened or whatever. And I think part of that too is just where that comes from is just people are just worried because they haven't heard anything. Like we keep hearing that this game is on track to come out this year, yet we keep not hearing anything about it. But again, this goes back to something you and I talked about at the beginning of the year, when we were doing our predictions episode, where, God of War 2018, it didn't get its release date until 3 months before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in a blog post one morning. We just woke up and it was there. So I'm expecting something similar to happen with this, where we're just going to wake up one day, probably within the next month, and here it's coming out in November, assuming that, the November 11th date is to be believed, just taking that Starfield spot just to, rub it in a little bit.
Yep.
But I definitely think for sure we're going to hear about it, in the next month or so. But it is a little bit concerning that we just haven't heard anything, but we know that there are, things happening in the world that are impacting these in ways that, we normally wouldn't be able to anticipate anyways. Because you're right. If certain, world events were happening that we won't talk about here, I think that we probably would have heard about it by now. And we would have had a lot of stuff to be excited about. But either way, I'm still excited to hear about it whenever they're willing to tell us about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need to rush it. They can tell, like, it's just a release date. It's not like it gets the game here any faster, and it'll still probably come out the same day, even if they announce it 2 months from now instead of last week or whatever. So yeah, at this point, I'm just excited to see more of it and play it when it comes out later this year, which is still what I think we're on track for. That's right, Court Lalonde. Get ready for negative points in our fantasy league for this.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. There's so much ridiculousness. I do think that Court is right. I just think that, like, the community at large in the gaming space really just needs to grow up a little bit more. There is so much unnecessary, like the fact that developers are being sent pictures of genitalia because, again, like, there's just, come on, like, the game is going to be fantastic. There seems to be a lot of hype around it. People are obviously very excited about it because for a lot of people, the original God of War is their favorite game. Well, 2018's is one of their favorite games, if not their favorite game of all time. But if they want the sequel to be worthy of continuing on this franchise, they need to give it time. They need to let it be ready when it's coming out. I still do think it is this year. I still think Court is going to eat those negative points. Yes. And it's just, when it's ready, we'll know. When it's imminent, we'll know. There's so much other stuff to play. There's so much excitement in the industry that just put your attention somewhere else. Make it, put your attention to something positive. And if you can't, then, I don't know, go touch grass, go do something else, because it's really not worth it.
Just be good people. That's all we got to say.
100%.
Like, treat others as though you would want to be treated.
100%.
Unless you really want those in your inbox, like, don't send that stuff like that to other people.
Come on. Yeah, seriously. So yeah, we'll once we hear about God of War, we'll be talking about it again. Our excitement is obviously very high. But my friend, let's let some of our friends into the carpool. We got a couple questions to touch on here before we go. Coming from Kevin, aka the Muffin Mon, over on Twitter. Do you celebrate Canada Day with cookouts like we do in the US for the 4th of July? And if so, what does your cookout look like, Ryan?
Well, as someone who lives in an apartment building with no way to have your own cookout, I do not actually celebrate Canada Day with a cookout. In fact, every Canada Day I'm usually working, so it's actually not a scenario where I'm usually able to, go do anything like that. But I would definitely remember, going to bars on Canada Day and doing that kind of thing. Like, that was more of what we used to do on Canada Day to celebrate, or just, going over to a friend's place and cracking beers and stuff like that, and just hanging out. Back when I used to drink back in the olden days.
The before times.
Well, I mean, I've been working at like every Canada Day for the last 10 years, so it's definitely been a long time since those days. But yeah, I think a lot of people definitely do that. Like, it's like, Kevin, you're not too far off. I think, like, most normal people who have Canada Day off, who live in houses and stuff like that, are more likely to go do the cookout thing on a Canada Day. But Matt, am I off base with this? Because I don't know, you're definitely the younger generation. 'Cause I know us old folks are definitely in that position. But what about you? What do you do on Canada Day?
Yeah, Canada Day cookouts are not abnormal. We've done them a couple times. We usually just go for the standard burgers and sausages. Sometimes we'll get some ribs going or something along those lines. But generally speaking, for Canada Day, similarly, like, we'll either go to somebody's house and crack some beers and just hang out, or we'll go to Streetsville or Celebration Square over by Square One for any of the natives. Because I don't know, I like the fireworks. I like the kind of hubbub of everybody being in the same place, which obviously hasn't happened in a couple years, and we're starting to see more of now. But for me, it was always kind of like, go hit up some food trucks, walk around, spend some time with friends, watch some fireworks. So, but yeah, I'm also working this Canada Day, so that, I'll just be seeing some friends tonight, just relaxing a little bit. But yeah, I think the cookout is not too far off base. Our next question coming from Nagachaka over on Twitter. Super important question, Ryan. What is your favorite thing to get from Swiss Chalet? I'm all about the hot rotisserie chicken sandwich smothered in gravy with a side of those famous Swiss Chalet French fries.
So I feel like this question is tailor-made for Courtland Law.
I know.
Unfortunately, Captain Canada himself is not here. But as someone who used to live when I was living in London, Ontario, fairly recently, so as someone who lived across the street from a Swiss Chalet, you better believe your boy Ryan Turford actually went to Swiss Chalet quite a bit. Especially because they would always have like a lunch special. So you'd get, for $8.99, you get a quarter chicken dinner. So I'd get, quarter chicken dinner with fries and go home. But my typical order at Swiss Chalet, if I was to get, anything on the menu, it used to, my go-to used to just be a double leg with fries. That used to be my usual meal. But now, I've got more refined taste. I'm an adult. Who is an adult sometimes. So when I go to Swiss Chalet now, I love chicken sandwiches. So the thing I get there now is the chicken Kaiser with dark meat. And then of course an extra side of chalet sauce for dipping in there, because I don't like the whole sandwich being smothered in gravy, because then it's a little bit messy. It's harder to eat. You got to eat it with a knife and fork, and who wants to do that? Who's got time for that? I like to eat with my fingers, Matt. So that's what I like to do. So chicken Kaiser, it depends on if you're eating in or if you're taking out.
Yes.
If you're eating in, then definitely fries are the way to go, because Swiss Chalet fries are great, but only if you eat them within 20 to 30 minutes of them being made. Whereas if you're going to get delivery from Swiss Chalet, I always stay clear with the fries, and at that point I go with something like a baked potato or Caesar salad.
Nice.
That's just me. What about you?
You have a very refined palate from the sounds of it. Admittedly, I haven't been to Swiss Chalet in a little while. I do miss it, and like with how much Court talks about it, it has been kind of chomping at the bit in the back of my mind for me to hop back onto that train. But usually I would go for the half chicken dinner. And then usually get the fries. It depends on how I'm feeling. Because sometimes I would get a quarter chicken, but instead of just fries, I get a poutine. Because I actually do think the Swiss Chalet poutine is pretty decent. So for me, that's usually my way. But yeah, that gravy, dude, is probably... You know what? I'm going to say it. It's the best fast food gravy, like full stop. I don't think that there's a fast food joint that does better gravy than Swiss Chalet. It's just delicious. It's so good. So yeah, you know what, Ryan, I might get Swiss Chalet this weekend. I might live a little. I might treat myself and just go nuts. We have one quick question left from Delroy. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite modern games developed by PS Studios, and I'm hoping for a sequel. Would you like to see a continuation of Jin's story or the exploits of a new Ghost, Ryan? What do you think?
So, I think because of the way that they ended Ghost of Tsushima, I actually would be interested to hear what happens to Jin next. And normally I'm not the type of person who says that. Like a lot of times with a sequel, I actually almost prefer 9 times out of 10 that they follow a different character in the sequel. And unless it's like a franchise that's really, the story really hinges on that one main character, in which case, yeah, I'm glad if they stick with it. And Ghost, I think, I'm actually excited to see what Jin does next. But I'm a little bit worried with whatever happens next with Ghost of Tsushima, because I feel like at the end of the first game, they really wrapped up a lot of the historical elements of, what truly happened between the Mongols and the Japanese, during that time period. So I'm curious to know where they would even go with a sequel, as far as, having to make up some more historical stuff that maybe didn't actually exist to go further. I don't really know. I don't know where they go from there. But either way, if I had a choice, I would say probably stick with Jin. But I wouldn't be opposed to them doing a new character. I think that'd be really cool. But Matt, what do you think?
I'm of two minds of this. I do think the Mongols do invade again in actual history. If somebody who knows history more than I do, correct me if I'm wrong. My only kind of worry about that would be that it might be too thematically and even gameplay similar to the first one. I do want them to kind of take us in a bit of a different direction. I would like to see Jin's story continue, especially like you said, the way that the first game leaves off, really kind of embracing that kind of ghost moniker and following him down that line, I think would be really cool. I also really wouldn't be opposed to a new character and part of, hearing about this mythical ghost and like trying to, like, I do still want Jin in the game regardless of how he's there. I do think that like there is room for the new character to kind of go after him, and whether it's, he's training the next generation or whatever it might be. But I would also love to just see Jin continue on with the story. I think he's a fantastic character, and I just hope that they do something a little bit different and not just, oh no, the Mongols are back. Because I just feel like that game might be too similar to the original one, but I'm sure they know what they're doing over at Sucker Punch. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic game regardless. But my friend, that brings us to the end of the show. But before we go, Ryan, if people want to see more of you, where could they do that?
So you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turfer, and I'm also on all the Carpool Gaming shows, apparently, because that's what happened this week. But mostly you find me on the RPG Cave, where me and Garrett Bland talk about RPGs, or the Xbox Drive, talk about Xbox with Sean Capri. Also, again, looking out on the horizon for this week, lots of extra miles with me, so please be excited about that. And also, I do a PlayStation-centric show that is on this feed, because you hear me every week anyways, talk about PlayStation 1 games, Greatness Begins. So you can definitely hear me there as well. But Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me over at Twitter at burnout_Matt. You can also find me at youtube.com/burnoutbrighter, where we do all things video games, mental health, and social justice every week. So please come hang out with us there as well. But that brings us to the end of the show. We will be back next week for another exciting drive through the PlayStation land. We will see you next week. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
The PlayStation Drive is fueled by the Patreons who truly make us believe that anything is possible. And we'd like to thank the more than 90 patrons who support us each and every month at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. With a special thanks to our ultimate producers, Mostly Martinez, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Dallas Ford, Trucker Soth, Jonathan Brown, who has a new album, In My Element, on Spotify and Apple Music, Drew Agnew, who is the host of the House of Mario podcast, Lee Navarro, who is the leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. The links are in the show notes. Please support these ultimate producers. Platinum producers, Brendan Myers, Becky Rubin Navarro, Skinny Matt, Robbie Bobby Miller. And then our gold members, Tom 4NKS, Slicely Carosa, Anna W., The Snack Network, Foolish Fuji, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, Tony Baker, Mac Time, RJ Kern, Jose Jimenez, Ashley Nichols, Argo, Marcus O'Neill, and Dallas Robbins. To support the PlayStation Drive and get some awesome perks, go to patreon.com/carpoolgaming and select the tier that works best for you.